happening now on Grid Tonight. After impressing many people in select starts with Hendrick Motorsports this year, Josh Berry will race full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2024 to replace Kevin Harvick. How difficult will it be for Berry to fill those massive shoes? IMSA placed Robert McGinnis on probation for his role in a scary crash on the streets of Detroit. Was probation the right call, or was that too harsh? After Chevrolet dominated the first half of the Supercars season, the series has decided to conduct a parity review that something needs to be done to give Ford a greater chance at winning races. Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. With me, Joshua Birch and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment and chat below and ask questions. Now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening, Matt. So this afternoon, Stewart-Haas Racing held a press conference where they announced that Josh Berry will replace Kevin Harvick in the number 4 Ford Mustang full-time in 2024. The move to the NASCAR Cup Series has been a long time coming for grassroots short-track racer who has had to grind his way each opportunity he's got and prove himself. And none of this would be possible without the belief of his current Xfinity team owner, of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Now, in the late 2000s, Berry and Jr. met through an online racing league. Then the two developed a connection, and Berry started driving for JR Motorsports in late models. Now, along the way, he got some additional opportunities in Xfinity. Berry ran a few Xfinity races with JR Motorsports in 2014 and 2015. He had some good results, but unfortunately didn't have the funding to do more than that. So he focused specifically on short track racing for the next several years, until Junior put him in his Xfinity car again in 2021 in a part-time role. Now, Berry did well, got his first career win at Martinsville, and his performance ended up earning him a full-time ride with JR Motorsports for the next 2 years in 2022 and 2023. Now, in 2020, Berry won the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Series National Championship. And that was when Chase Elliott, of course, and Alex Bowman were out with injuries earlier this year. Hendrick Motorsports called up Berry as the substitute driver, and he impressed many, including myself, up in the commentary box. Top 10 finishes in a Cup car at Phoenix, Dover, including strong second-place finish at Richmond, certainly put him on the map for Cup Series owners like Tony Stewart. The photo taken by James Gilbert for Getty Images. Matt, to take over the number 4, and what are your expectations for the driver who will be a 33-year-old rookie at the start of next season?
Age just a number. Let's throw that one out straight away. This is great news. One for the good guys, and shows that you don't just need to back up with a truck full of money to get a ride in the Cup Series. Very pleased for Josh Berry. Pleased for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and that whole organisation that, as you mentioned, brought him in a couple of years ago for Xfinity. Got to the Final Four last year in the championship race. And as you said, been impressive in his injury stand-ins for Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman throughout this first half of the season. And this sort of story has been kind of doing the rounds underground for the last couple of weeks. We kind of knew something was coming, and good for it to. We always like it when we have news break on a Wednesday, because that means we can talk about it on the show and it's sort of fresh off the press. But great to see. And as we're going to get on to, there was some great quotes from Tony Stewart during that press conference today about how he kind of wants to run his team and how his drivers going forward. But great for Josh. This is a win for hard work and perseverance. Yes, he might be getting on in years, but as we've seen over the last couple of years in the Xfinity Series, he is certainly a very, very good driver indeed. Got multiple victories to his name, and as I said, those races he's done in the Cup Series so far this year have been very impressive in this new. I know we're sort of 18 months into the project now, but the new generation of cars. So let's see what he can do in a big, obviously number 4 team is a big ride, the marquee car at SHR, and they put their faith in Josh Berry. Let's see how he gets on next year. Can't wait to see how he goes.
Adam's already in with the comment saying that Josh Berry can and will win at SHR in 2024. Excellent news. He'll be cool to watch next year. Good evening, Adam, as well, watching over there in the chat. Now, as I said, today probably would never have happened without the support Berry received from the Earnhardt family, who took a chance on a guy who didn't bring any sponsorship money to the table. Kelly Earnhardt as well tweeted, "Sad but happy. That's possible, right? It's so fun watching you fulfill the dream of what you've worked so hard for. Go get them, Josh Berry. But first, more Xfinity winners, and let's contend for a championship." Now, Junior was obviously thrilled about his guy getting a chance to shine at the top level and being paired with another short track guy, crew chief, of course, Ronnie Childers as well. But he believes Berry going to SHR will open up the eyes of other Cup team owners to avoid putting all their eggs in one basket for younger drivers only. Now, during the press conference, Jordan Bianchi as well from the Athletic asked Tony Stewart why he decided to bring Berry to SHR instead of a paid driver. Stewart said, I'm going to repeat this. Stewart said he's not interested in having some kid's father buying his way into the Cup Series. That was the Christian thing you were waiting for, Matt, earlier on. He wants a driver who works hard, makes sacrifices, earn their way to the top the hard way, understands the value it takes to be a Cup driver, not a kid who got his high school diploma and suddenly a Cup driver. Photo courtesy of SHR there. And I must admit, I agree with that sentiment as well. It's always better to have those type of drivers come in as well, the proper grassroots. So how much hope should Stewart's words give drivers and short track racers around the country who don't bring funding to the table, that it is still possible to make it to the Cup the hard way round with the grit and grind mentality?
Yeah, it's promising for those guys. As I said, Josh has done this the hard way, coming up through the short track scene, and he got that win at Martinsville a couple of years ago now at the end of the season in Xfinity. Kind of put his name up in lights down there at Junior Motorsports and has pushed on from there and was a race winning contender throughout the season last year. And as I said, got to the championship race, just missed out on a championship. It will be a contender again once we get to playoff time in the Xfinity Series later on in the year. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It puts a lot of pressure on other teams, doesn't it? Because, you know, that's going to, well, maybe we are taking the wrong decision by just bringing in the people with the money. I mean, Riley Herbst is the SHR kind of junior driver, I guess, in the Xfinity Series, but he's been in that series for 4 or 5 years now, it seems like. This year is going better for him, but it's still not been very productive in terms of results. But he brings money. He's got monster backing around that cool Ken Block tribute paint scheme at Darlington a couple of months ago. So they're fully in with Riley, but he hasn't really shown the potential. A lot of people, you know, were tabbing him to move up at some point, with obviously Harvick retiring, and still not sure what's happening with Eric Almirola, because he was down to retire at the end of last season and was kind of coaxed back into the 10 car with Smithfield, his big backers. So two sides of the coin really for SHR at the minute. They've got people bringing money in their rides, and this coming out from Tony Stewart today. But that's a typical Tony quote, isn't it? If you've been watching NASCAR for many years, you'll know there's a Tony dynamite stick that just swings its way into the press room from time to time. And interesting to see what happens going forward. They've got another car to fill potentially at the 10 car if Almirola does decide again to step away at the end of the season. Will they be looking for someone else to come up through this kind of route, or will they be hunting for the cash? It's going to be interesting to see what happens down there at the 10 team.
Indeed, and since Kevin Harvick joined SHR in 2014, he's been the unquestioned team leader and top driver at the organisation. However, SHR's performance has taken a noticeable dip across the board in recent years, and they're still not as competitive as what they used to be in the past. Still, after the first 16 races, Harvick is the highest Stewart-Haas driver in the points. He's 5th. Now, while his teammates are struggling, Ryan Preece is 25th in the points, Eric Almirola 26th in the points, Chase Briscoe 31st in the points, after a major penalty that we discussed on the show earlier on in the season. Now, entering this weekend's race at Nashville Superspeedway, SHR is making some organizational changes to his crew chief lineup. Xfinity Series crew chief Richard Boswell will become Briscoe's new chief at the Cup level. This is a reunion between driver and crew chief who've won 8 races together in Xfinity. Briscoe's former crew chief, Johnny Closway, as well, has transferred to the company's vehicle performance group coming into it. While Boswell leaving Xfinity, Davin Restivo will become Riley Herbert's new crew chief as well. Now, Matt, do you think that reuniting Briscoe and Boswell can turn the number 14 team's season around? And could this be the beginning of many personnel changes at Stewart-Haas Racing heading into 2024?
Yeah, it feels like we're at that point with SHR that they need a major shake-up. Remember when Kevin Harvick signed there and was on an absolute tear and won that championship, but at seemingly at ease that first season that he switched teams. Briscoe, we talked about, as you mentioned, we talked about that penalty a couple of weeks ago. His season has really not been very good. They need to do something to give him any chance of getting into the playoffs like he did last season. But he probably he's got to win. He can't point his way in from that far down after that massive penalty that they had a couple of weeks back. Almirola's just kind of there or thereabouts every week, as he kind of has been throughout his career. Pops up on the odd occasion on a super speedway and threatens to get a win, or does get one, that's the only kind of place he has had wins. Off the top of my head, in both Cup and Xfinity over the last couple of years. And Ryan Preece, we talked about him at the start of the season, that he was looking good, ran okay at the first half of Martinsville, and kind of we haven't seen him since. So they did need to do something. Good point to do it. We've had the off week, so chance for some teams to have a bit of a regroup and a rethink about what they want to do into this second half of the season. And let's see. I say Briscoe, they really do need to get him motoring. Harvick, even if he doesn't win, he's pretty much, the way he's running would be a bet to get in on points, unless we have a glut of new winners over the next few weeks, and then he'll certainly need to get up there and grab himself a checkered flag. But for Briscoe, certainly they needed to do something with that team, because they were floundering in the teens and 20s every week and just never seemed to be making any forward progress.
We'll bring you more on that throughout the weekend, as well as we'll be covering all that in our pre-race show on Saturday and our review show on Sunday as well. Big weekend for us here at the Grid Network, as Joe's going to be trackside for us with Formula E being at Portland. A little bit of a sign that I should have been on a plane right now. Oh, the funding. But we got close. We did get close. So don't worry, I'll be there eventually. You won't get rid of me as well. I'll come over to America and just stay at Portland, so I'm always on site. Following on then to our second story of the weekend as well. Following a scary crash a few weeks ago on the streets of Detroit in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race, IMSA has placed Robert McGuinness on probation for the next 4 races. Now, entering a braking zone, McGuinness drove his number 95 Turner Motorsport BMW M4 GT4 into the number 19 Aston Martin GT4 of Rory van der Steur, going airborne and landing on the top of the Aston Martin before driving away from the scene. Now, IMSA's Vice President of Competition, Simon Hodgson, and Race Director Birks Barfield as well, determined that McGuinness was responsible for this incident. When McGuinness drove back to the pits after the crash, it forced a lengthy track cleanup. McGuinness will serve his 4-race probation at Watkins Glen, the Canada Motorsport Park, Road America, and Virginia International Raceway, as IMSA say they'll continue to monitor all on-track conduct and act accordingly and consistently should there be a further degradation of driving behaviour. The photo there courtesy of IMSA. Kobe, welcome back. We'll start with you this one. Do you think the penalty is justified, or is it a bit too harsh?
To be honest, Josh, I haven't even thought about this incident once since it happened, so it was a bit of a surprise this morning to get the press release from IMSA saying that they're gonna do a 4-race probation for Robert McGinnis. And when this crash was happening, it left a lot of people with their jaws dropped to the floor, because it was something very surprising. You don't expect to see a GT car landing on top of another GT car on a street course like Detroit. Yes, yeah, it was a really dangerous maneuver there. So I guess IMSA felt like that they had to take some action here and give him a 4-race probation. I guess that's the best possible scenario. I would have been very surprised that if they would have suspended McGinnis for a race. I just remember that the team owner, Will Turner, was not happy at the end of this incident, because it looked like Turner was going to be in the hunt to win this race, and then for McGinnis to make this big mistake and in their chances of winning that day in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race in Motown. It was very disappointing for the organization, and I'm assuming, since this was also in the press release, they mentioned that lengthy track cleanup, which it took away from the race, and that probably had a factor in this probation where IMSA was not happy at all. But I know sometimes when there's like a big shunt like this, they tell you to like stop the car, and then like they'll tow you back to make sure that you're not going to be dropping debris and liquid and stuff all over the track. But McGinnis decided to drive all the way back, and this is the decision that IMSA came up with.
Yes, it was. Yeah, again, I'm kind of the same with you, Kobe. After the incident, really didn't think any much more about it. But that coming down the wires today was a little bit left field. It was an incident. You can certainly put the blame on McGinnis. He was coming down the inside into the hairpin there at Detroit, that turn 3, isn't it, on the new Detroit track, and just cleaned out the Aston Martin. I think Turner, in their press release today or yesterday, there was an amusing line about their BMW has come back down to earth and he's ready to go for the weekend at Watkins Glen, which I thought was quite amusing. Turner certainly always a good one for lines in their press releases. But yeah, they'll be ready to go again at Watkins Glen. I know maybe this is again a bit more like NASCAR. They've made the changes we were just talking about. This is a middle of the season. This is what is going to happen going forward. There has been, that Laguna Seca in the main race in IMSA at Laguna Seca a couple of weeks ago. That was very yellow feverish at the beginning. There was all kinds of accidents and incident going on. It's the 6 hours of the Glen this Sunday. So maybe they're just pre-warning everybody just to keep themselves, keep their mind their P's and Q's over the weekend. They don't want to lose massive amounts of track time over the weekend for kind of silly little incidents like this. Hello to Casey. He's watching in after his weekend at the ARCA race at the weekend at Berlin. So hello to Casey. He's watching in. As Kobe said at the top, get your comments in. We'll read out all of your thoughts as we go through the show. But yeah, again, like you, Kobe, didn't really think too much about this incident until this news dropped today. So we'll have to keep an eye on what's happening in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Not a series we very often talk about on the network, but if there's any more incidents for that yellow and blue Turner car, then it'll be scrutinised, you can be sure.
Can't wait to be keeping across all of that then over the next 4 races. Okay, moving on to our hot topic of the evening. The Repco Supercars Championship is conducting a parity review to identify and evaluate any imbalances among the Chevrolets and Fords. Now, this process works using the analysis of lap times across a number of races to determine where the disparity exists. After the first 15 races, we've seen Chevrolet win 14 times. Ford's only victory of the Gen 3 era was the season opening race at Newcastle with Tickford Racing and Cam Waters. Everything in this segment is courtesy of Supercars. Now, the Supercars CEO, Shane Howard, released this statement explaining the next steps, saying the parity review system has been a foundation of the parity assessment throughout the championship over many years. Now that a review has been triggered, we have commenced the nominated process. Supercars have met and are working with both homologating teams to formulate appropriate recommendations for a parity adjustment. Seems like Formula 1 could do with one of these as well. But Matt, starting with you on this one, should Supercars make changes to the cars in the middle of the season, or should Ford just step up its game?
I'm going to teeter on the edge of the soapbox for this. I'm sure it will come back out when we get to Hots and Knots later, but I'm going to teeter on the edge of the soapbox. Who knew there was a parity review system? Who knew? But apparently we do as of today. There has been so much talk about parity this season with the new car. You mentioned that Cam Waters got that win at Newcastle. Of course, he didn't win on the road because Van Gisbergen did in the Red Bull car, and then they got thrown out for the illegal driver cooling procedure that they had going on. So actually, technically, Ford haven't won a race this season on the road. Waters was looking on to like he might be a win on the road on Saturday until his monster Mustang decided to fireball itself with a loose fuel pipe. Will Davison came through and got a podium in that race for DJR. That was Ford's only podium of the weekend. But the Ford teams have been complaining about parity. The Chevrolet teams, especially Red Bull and Erebus, have been kind of saying, well, the Ford teams just need to do better, that they've got what they've got, and they just need to step up their game, a bit like Formula One, perhaps. Yeah, this has rumbled on all season. We had it back in 2019 when it was the other way around, when the new Mustang, or the new at the time Mustang, hit the track with Scott McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard sweeping up the good handful of all of the races at the beginning of the season in 2019. And then we had a big parity discussion through the summer, and we had the podcast wars between Scott McLaughlin and David Reynolds, and there was all manner of things going on in the background of that. We're kind of at that point now. After the second Sunday race at Hidden Valley at the weekend, there was a impromptu drivers meeting in the paddock afterwards, as they discussed. Ford drivers and Chevrolet drivers were involved, what to do and how to do it and what can be done. There was some engine mapping changes brought in excuse me, before Hidden Valley at the weekend. I kind of didn't really see too much from what we could see through the broadcast. I mean, I'd say Waters was on for a potential win on Saturday. Will Davison got a podium. Waters then drove back through the field after poor qualifying, and they're having to repair the car on Sunday. Mostert was also a man coming through the field. And as I tweeted, I think this morning, even Nick Percat was fast at the weekend in a Ford. So, and he's been nowhere for almost a year and a half, even the old car and the new one. So I don't know what they're going to do about this. Maybe it is an aero thing that needs to be done next. But the problem is they don't wind tunnel test these new cars. They're just straight line tested at an airfield. So there isn't a good enough wind tunnel, by the sounds of what I've heard and what I'm hearing, in Australia to get them. So it'll be a massive cost to try and fly them somewhere, probably to the States, and get them tunnel tested over there. But who's going to stump up for that? A lot of rumours going around that if this carries on, Ford may pull out. I'm not sure I can see that happening. They did that before a couple of years ago, ran as customers and then came back again when the Mustang was launched. So it's an interesting situation. We'll have to measure it going forward. We've got Townsville coming up next for supercars in 2 weeks' time, back on the street track, back to a proper format of 200-kilometre races with a fuel stop, rather than these silly little 100k sprints. So street track, going to be interesting. What will be done in the meantime over the next couple of weeks? Who knows if there is going to be anything done? But as I said at the top, who knew there was a review process? If we'd known about this at the start of the season, maybe the social media angst wouldn't have been as bad, because we knew it would come at some point. But nice of Supercars to drop that bombshell on us today.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a parity review system either, and we'll see what the Rev Cup Supercars Championship are going to do about this, about the problems with the parity. And got comments from Adam Limmery saying it's weird with Ford only winning one race this year in Repco's supercars, and the good point that Matt brought up about Shane Van Gisbergen, and if he wasn't disqualified from race one, Chevrolet would have swept the entire first half of the season. So technically, Ford hasn't taken a checkered flag yet on the racetrack, and that's certainly a worrisome sight for the Blue Oval as we enter the second half of the supercar season when we go to Townsville in a couple of weeks' time. And Adam also says there's a lot of good Ford teams in the Rev Cup Supercars this year. Totally agree with that. It feels really strange. And teams like Dick Johnson Racing having a tough time and struggling. I know it was a good time for Will Davison in the last race. Anton De Pasquale showed some speed early in the weekend, but it was pretty much nowhere after all of that. And yeah, when you're out there trying your best and still not fast enough, it's certainly going to be frustrating. I understand the Ford drivers been frustrated, but I also understand why the Chevrolet drivers and teams would be like, why would you punish us for doing extremely well? I know this is not sports car racing where you use BOP, and understand the Ford threats of, well, the rumors going around of potentially pulling out might be a threat to try to get some help with the parity to try to make sure that Ford and Chevrolet are more even. Although Ford only has that one win with Cam Waters at the beginning of the season, I actually thought Darwin was a small step forward for them, especially with that podium for Will Davis and Cam Waters. If it wasn't for the big fire in the first race at Hidden Valley, I thought Waters probably would have held on, because as we saw in all the other races, typically if you were out front, that was the driver who ended up winning the race. So Cam Waters very well could have won that and had a good comeback performance in the final race of the weekend after that horrible fire set back the team quite a little bit. We're not sure what Supercars is going to do, but as we enter the second half of the season, we're certainly going to hope that we'll see a lot more closer racing between the Chevrolet and the Ford teams.
The other thing as well that Matt just reminded me of by saying about the silly little sprints, nice little stat for you. Next time out for Formula One, we're at the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a sprint weekend, which means it's the first time we can actually have a direct comparison between how sprint races work in Formula One and MotoGP, because they're going to go to the Red Bull Ring later on in the year in August, and that is going to be our first direct comparison to see what they're like at two different tracks. That's going to be something that I will keep my eye on and bring some updates with the differences between the two of them. So we've finished our main stories for the evening, but we've got just more to come after this, because now it's time to hand over to Matt White with the latest from the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. Time for another week of EPI scoring. We'll start with the results. As we mentioned on the last week's show, we're in this post-Le Mans lull, but we had a massive weekend of GT3 racing. We talked a lot about GT3 on the show last week. A lot of GT3 racing across the world last week, and it started on Saturday with the fourth round of the Nürburgring Langstrecke Series, a fourth win for a BMW team in the four races on the Nordschleife. Christian Krognes and Kubik Gemaziak getting the win for Valkenhorst, their second win of the season as a team. That's the fourth different BMW win on the year. There was some history made at Fuji in the latest round of GT World Challenge Asia, where a Callaway Corvette got the win in race one. Shinji Takai and Akira Leader getting a Corvette win, the first Corvette win in an SRO race for more than a decade. So congratulations to them. Unfortunately, it was wiped out in a crash in the second race, with Mercedes coming through. Triple Eight Racing, their pairing of Prince Abu Ibrahim and Lucas Stoltz coming through to win the second race. We had the latest round of the American version of GT World Challenge at the weekend as well. They were at VIR. Daniel Morad and Kenton Cook winning on Saturday, and Colin Braun and George Kurtz getting the victory for the CrowdStrike team on Sunday. That's their third win of the season. British GT also in action at the weekend. Two sprint races for them at Snetterton up in Norfolk. Sean Balfe and Sandy Mitchell winning for Lamborghini in the first race, and a win for Mercedes with John Ferguson and a Raffaele Marciello getting on the score sheet as well there. That's his third win of the season in any EPI scoring races. So that's 59 races down of 151 in the 2023 Grid Endurance Performance Index. And let's give you an updated score as we go into this weekend. It is no change in the top 10 from last week, because everyone in that top 10 had a week off. So the score is exactly the same as it was post-Le Mans, with the second place trio there at the top of our list. Second place at Le Mans last weekend. Rio Hirakawa, Sebastian Buemi and Brendan Hartley continue to lead the way. This weekend we've got only 3 races of scoring. The next round of the DTM, they're at Zandvoort, being supported by the Formula One Academy. If you get to see some Formula One Academy at the weekend, then let everybody know, because we're all desperate to see it and no one seems to be showing it apart from in a 15-minute highlight package. But we've got 6 hours of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship at Watkins Glen, one of their highlight races of the season, the third round of the Michelin Endurance Cup for them. There's the updated top 50 on screen for you, all the way down to Philip Eng there. So 49 people with 10 or more points to their name, which is nice and neat, and it's pretty close, as you can see, throughout scoring. And a lot of those people just about inside the top 10 and top 20 in action this weekend, especially them at Watkins Glen. So we'll give you the results of that and an updated score for week 12 on next week's Grid Tonight. Back to you, Kobe.
Thanks, Matt. Next, more motorsports news from around the world. Trackhouse Racing team owner Justin Marks will return to the driver's seat during NASCAR's inaugural race weekend at the Chicago Street Course. On Independence Day weekend, Marks will drive this patriotic paint scheme, the number 10 Jockey Chevrolet for Kaulig Racing and Xfinity race in Chicago. This will be Marks' first Xfinity start since 2018, and he has one career Xfinity win at Mid-Ohio back in 2016. Marks said it's very difficult to retire as a race car driver, and given his extensive experience for his sports car racing days, he figured that racing on the streets of Chicago would be an experience is something that he would really like to be a part of. He added, if you want to compete in an Xfinity road course race, AJ Allmendinger has proven time and time again that you want to be sitting in a Kaulig car on this type of track. Graphic courtesy of Kaulig Racing. The ABB-FA Formula E World Championship has released the provisional calendar for season 10 next year. Once again, preseason testing will take place in Valencia. Then season 10 kicks off in Mexico City, followed by a doubleheader in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. The locations of the next two rounds after that will be announced at a later date. After that, we have Sao Paulo, the highly anticipated race in Tokyo, Japan, Rome, Monaco, and the Berlin doubleheader. Another location that'll be announced at a later date. Then the season ends with Jakarta, Portland, and a doubleheader season finale at the London E-Prix. Graphic E. Harris, the newest owner of the Washington Commanders in the NFL, is joining Joe Gibbs Racing's ownership group. Harris said he's thrilled to announce that Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment and Arctos have made a significant investment in JGR as a minority owner. The partnership makes sense given Coach Gibbs' past experience as the head coach of the Commanders from 1981 to 1992 and completed a second stint from 2004 to 2007. Harris added, from football to NASCAR, winning runs deep in Coach Gibbs' blood, including family and faith, so he looks forward to helping further the culture of high performance and strong values at JGR. In return, Joe Gibbs is set to become a limited partner in Harris's other business ventures, HBSE, the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers, and the NHL's New Jersey Devils. Press release courtesy of JGR. Next, Matt, going to turn over to you for everyone's favorite game, pick a winner, and the updated leaderboard.
Yes, and a high-scoring weekend of pick-a-winner points it was, and you can see there that is how we stand going into this weekend, with Kobe now 2 points clear of Ed at the top. I think everybody got a point for Verstappen, didn't they, for the Grand Prix? So Josh is where is Josh? Where I never seem to see you. 10th, Josh, up to 10th now in the points. I am 8th there on 15, as we go into this weekend with another glut of points to be scored, and it starts with WRC back for another week. They are in Africa, in Kenya for Rally Safari. And if you're watching this live or not so long after, it starts on Thursday morning. So you need to get your pick in pretty sharpish because we've got the first stage of the event tomorrow with the super special stage. And then the rally starts proper on Friday. So that's the first of our two picker winners. I think it is two, isn't it, for tonight? Just getting the script back up. Yes, it is. So we'll start with WRC. Kelly Rothenpedal was fastest on the shakedown. I am going to pick him to win the event this weekend.
And I'm going to go with the more obvious choice since I see he's in it. I'm going to go with one of the legends of the sport, Sebastian Ogier.
I'm agreeing with you because I've been waiting for Sebastian to be back in the series for a long time now. He's had a couple off. So, yeah, Sebastian Ogier will take it. And I'm just going to go like that because I never know anything to do with WRC. So, although Adam's gone with Rivapero as well. I'm just going to go under my desk. Yeah. Can we move on to something I know now?
I have to apologise to you, Josh, actually, because I did you a disservice last time we picked for Sardinia because I said Ogier wasn't in the event when you wanted to pick him, and he was. But fortunately for you, he crashed while in the lead. So if you picked him, you wouldn't have scored anyway. So swings and roundabouts.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Our second pick a winner race is the third round in this triple header of European swing for MotoGP. They are at the Dutch TT this weekend. Still should be on Saturday if you ask me, but it's not. It's on Sunday. And of course, on Saturday, we'll have the sprint race, which is what we're going to pick today. It's got to be a Ducati, hasn't it? I'm going with Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah, I think that's the easy pick right now. As everyone's noticed, I picked Pecco Bagnaia for every single sprint race just about this season. So I'm gonna stay on the Ducati train here, where the other bike manufacturers continuing to struggle because those Ducatis are in a completely different zip code.
Jack Miller. I'm going Jack Miller to win the sprint race for one very good reason. Assen is a difficult track to overtake at, and that KTM has had lightning starts. I think it'll be Jack Miller. Not Brad, but Jack. Matthew saying it's the disappearing announcer trick. Yeah, just go down and then you go up again. It's a bit better with the green screen because you just stand behind it and then everyone disappears. Aaron's gone for Pecco. It's an obvious one to go for Pecco, but Pecco's main race, I think, and he was struggling at the Sachsenring, and Assen's a very similar track. So, but Jack Miller got the lightning getaway, so I'm going to go with Miller for the sprint. But I'm very much looking forward to this weekend. Megan's not in the commentary box for this weekend because she's suffering with some headaches as well recently. So she's taken this weekend off because it's the less thing to do. So Julia's stepping in to the commentary box for qualifying, sprint and the race. So I'm very excited. So is she to be commentating. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this weekend. A new commentary partner as well. And Julia knows everything and more than MotoGP than any of us put together. So her experience in the comms box is going to be very much a rivalry. I think it's going to be like Martin and Murray. Just I'll make the big statements that are massively wrong, and then she'll come in and say, "I think you're fine, Josh." So I'm very much looking forward to having Julia in the commentary box on Saturday and Sunday. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And also, I'm back this weekend, live, all on YouTube, all back, finally. We'll get into that with Hots and Knots in a second as I throw back to Matthew.
Yeah, we'll talk about that shortly. Rest to pick a winner will have to obviously be across the social medias with Formula E in Portland, as you mentioned a little while ago. Josh, Joe will be there on site for us over the weekend. Looking forward to see what content Joe can bring us. He's, I'm sure, very much looking forward to being on site. Josh wishes he was going to be there, but unfortunately he is not. We're also going to have the MotoGP main race, of course, in Pick a Winner. Cup race at Nashville. Of course, we're on to the NBC portion of the NASCAR season. That'll probably be a not next week. Yeah, on to NBC from now on. So it's probably going to be a not next week for me and for Ben and for Matthew Rowans and everybody else. And also we'll have the Watkins Glen IMSA race as part of Pick a Winner as well over the weekend. So now we can get into the ranty section of the show and the waffling section. But I have only got 8% left of battery on my tablet, so we'll probably need to make it fairly more quick this week. Hots and Knots from the weekend. I will kick off with my hot. Good to see Mark Winterbottom and Jack LeBrock getting up and getting wins at Darwin. Second career victory for LeBrock and a first for Winterbottom since 2018, I think they mentioned. So that was really cool to see in a kind of less hotty weekend again this weekend, I felt like.
I've got a little post-it with my hot and not on it as well. I've come prepared. My hot, Dennis Onchu in the Moto 3. Absolutely fantastic performance. I mentioned it on the Grid Encore show as well on Monday. He timed that move to perfection on Sunday. He was practicing it lap after lap and going to the inside at every opportunity. The last corner, went for the dive bomb, got the lead, and went up the hill and took the win. He's been waiting for that for 63 starts. Mega proud of him. First Turkish rider to win in Moto 3. My second hot actually came not from MotoGP, but from Formula One with Alexander Albon in the Williams.
Yes,
putting
very
him
good.
in 7th position. Fantastic performance from him. Absolutely world class. And it's a genuine sign that Williams are progressing up the order, despite the limited upgrades they've got. At tracks like that, they suit really, really well. So a good qualifying and a good race from him. I'm proud.
Yeah, very good performance from Alex. Kind of got a little bit lucky when of the safety car timing, but these things happen. He got the business done. Nico Hulkenberg went the other way after his really good qualifying. So Those are the swings and roundabouts of F1. The swings and round of hots and knots. Then I'll quickly run through mine because I know Josh has got a big one he needs to get off his chest. I haven't seen any of Mugello MotoGP and I haven't seen any of Sachsenring MotoGP, and I probably won't get to watch Aston either. I might catch up on Mugello on Saturday night, actually, while I've got the telly to myself. But the only bit of Sachsenring I did see was Marc Marquez's crash with Johan Zarco. To blame Zarco for that and his actions straight after the accident of him just getting up and walking away when there was only 3 minutes left on the clock in that practice. It was the last practice session, wasn't it, before qualifying that it happened. He wasn't going to get back to the pits and get out again on the spare bike anyway. Please check on your fellow man when he's laid prone in the middle of the racetrack. Zarco was in the pit lane exit, if you didn't see it, coming out of the pits, and it goes around the outside of turn one, the hairpin corner at the Sachsenring. And Marc Marquez harpooned him, broke the Ducati in half, almost pulled the whole front portion of the bike out. And Zarco was in a bit of a mess this weekend. And then for Marc to then throw his toys out the pram and miss the race was, just not good for Marc. As we talked about him a couple of weeks ago, him not being on there, having a good year, and this kind of cherry on top of cake. That's my not. My not was Tickford in supercars again. More accident and crash damage, and Cam Waters' fireball on Saturday, the last thing that team needed, but they stayed till 3:30 in the morning and got him fixed up and got him racing on Sunday. Matthew Owens, hot, a NASCAR off week. Yes, we all needed that one. The teams and crew and members definitely needed that. For the fans and ratings, absence makes the heart grow fonder. 38 races in 40 weeks is just too much. Yeah, if you include the All-Star race and the showdown at the start of the year, whatever they call it these days, the clash, then it's just a little bit too much. Josh is limbering up, ready for his knot.
Well, can we just talk about the obvious knot that I think every motorsport fan agrees with? The fact that IndyCar and F1 were direct clashing in both Canada and Red America. Yeah. What was the point? I saw 15 laps, but I have seen the race now, and I had a very rare opportunity to listening to your coverage, Matt and Matthew. I booted up USON and synced up. What a great race it was. And I was ashamed I missed that live to commentate on a Formula One race that was a bit predictable. But we lost pictures actually at the start of the F1. We got him back on the formation lap. That's how scary we got. This big rainstorm, the satellite dish got kicked off. Right. What percentage are you at, Matt?
6.
Right. Shan't we get to 4? I'm
plugged in, but it's not doing it. The number is going down. So,
okay.
Hey ho.
Right. My not I've had to sit on for 2 weeks here, and it is MotoGP related. At the Italian Grand Prix on the Friday, I was commentating on Watch Along the same way we do this show, with this camera on and a headset with a tweet deck and timing tower showing the names. I was giving it my all at the end of the session. There was 3 minutes to go on the clock when all of a sudden my YouTube stream goes dead. Absolutely dead. Pulled off the air when I was mid-sentence. I then find out that I have been blocked by Dorna in a manual review after being requested by a viewer in the chat. I have found this out via, past 2 weeks of having to talk through this with YouTube. A viewer in the YouTube chat was harassing me, was calling me some very horrible names that can't be repeated because I wasn't showing the footage of the track. It was a watch-along. So before I could block that person, because we were mid-swing at the end of the session and it set the running order for Q1 and Q2, this person reported the live stream, and Dorna, with the manual tool, which is actually automatic, copyrighted the video for using footage. I was striked and lost access to my live streams for 7 days. This was in effect on the Saturday, which means we missed covering the Le Mans 24-hour live on the main channel. Thankfully, the amazing team got us back up on the second channel, and we were delayed premiering videos every 2 hours on the main channel. But in terms of revenue, I lost an estimated £150 in ad revenue. A massive amount for one person being rude and Dorna blocking it. Now, this copyright strike, I had to not only appeal it, I had to submit a counter notification, which takes 10 days to reply. Since that time, I've had my live streaming suspended for 7 days. I only got it back this last Friday at 4 p.m. British summertime after being told I would have access to it from midnight. I couldn't commentate live on the MotoGP practice sessions, and I only just got it back in time for Formula One. Another estimated lost learnings of around about £10. So in total, due to one person reporting and Dorna not being helpful and taking down a watch-long stream, have cost me around about 160 quid. That is shocking. Dorna have not been helpful whatsoever. They continue not to be, because this is an ongoing thing that I've looked into as well. Dorna are very much like Formula One used to be. They don't like anybody doing any other form of content creation that takes away from their main view. Dorna used to be the leaders in social media. Now it is not. And this isn't having a go at them and having a thingy. I would be honoured to work with Dorna to bring their TV and all their coverage and the social medias into the present, because right now it is harming content creators that only want to grow the sport and interact with them. It is harming it. I was put in a position where I was not allowed to talk about MotoGP for over a week in any capacity. They'll face legal actions. And I was put in a position where I had to decide whether or not I wanted to continue broadcasting a series I love. I love MotoGP. I fell in love with it before Formula One in the early 2000s as well. But MotoGP isn't the problem. The bikes, the riders, the racing action, that's not it. It's the men behind it. And I do say men because the main team is full of old men who have no idea what the modern world is like. The sprint races we've seen this year has divided the fan base and the riders. The controversial rule changes as well. Everything is broken from the ground up. And social media, yes, it's not important, but for people like us, this is our job. This is our life. To deny people doing that is wrong. So that's my statement about what I've had to stop on for the past couple of weeks. That's why me and Dawn are on very iffy terms at the moment. The copyright strike should be removed from my channel fully on Friday morning, but I got the live stream back and the embargo ended last Friday, so I could talk about MotoGP again. But I'm not happy because technically I'm also shadow banned on YouTube, because this weekend I should have had over 1,000 viewers on each. I never got anywhere near that from the recommendation feed. So I'm being punished for doing absolutely nothing. That's wrong. So yeah, that's my little statement I've been having to brew on for the past couple of weeks. Basically, Dorna's attitude needs to change on content that other people create that use no footage whatsoever. And people need to be kind and realize that what we do is because we love it, not because we do it for any other reason. We love what we do and we will continue to do what we do. And that's basically my biggest knot, really. People who are mean for no reason, and Dorna being stuck in the dark ages. There you go, Matt. That's what I've had to sit on.
Excellent. Well, yes, I have to agree with pretty much everything you said there. And that goes for, I think, one of my knots from the other week when we talked about people being nuisances of themselves on social media. It just needs to stop. And clearly your streams are all marked as watch along in the what's the word I'm looking for here? Title.
Description.
So
yes, title.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the title of the video. So I don't know what these people expect to see. Adam also agrees with me and with you. So yeah, clearly you weren't showing pictures and haven't ever shown pictures.
Nope.
So yeah, but some of these people are, yeah, they do know what they're doing to some degree. But yeah,
yes,
awful that you
just
ended up having to lose cash out of your pocket for it.
Yes, and I'm going to hopefully I've luckily still managed, with the amazing fans that we've got, we've still managed to pass the £60 minimum for this month, but only
Excellent.
just. In fact, I looked this morning and it was at £60 and 30p, which is great, but it is annoying that what we do also isn't cheap to run all this. And it's a little bit like a kick when you're down as well. So Just be
Hopefully
kind is
you
my
can
message to everyone.
get through Assen this weekend with no problems, and then it's the MotoGP summer break. So
Yeah.
then there's plenty of time for anything else that needs to be sorted, ready for Silverstone, isn't it? The next race after the summer break.
And comically enough, Silverstone's actually a lot more free to do because it's on free-to-air television. Annoyingly, though, so was the Italian Grand Prix. So why it was different? Because that race was free-to-air. So there should have been less restrictions. But it's weird. I know that with Formula One, the British Grand Prix, they actually say you can actually use footage. You can use replays if you so wish in your watch-alongs. But I never do.
Cool.
Yeah. You can use replays as well because it's not live.
Well done, Channel 4.
Yeah, Channel 4 is great, but it only happens once a year, so I don't do it because otherwise people expect it every weekend, and that's not possible. We're going to just do the track noise. Yeah. Anyway, I'm done with that. That's my biggest knot. That's been unworked from the back pressure we've had over the past couple of weeks.
If you watched last week, that was Josh was stewing on that last week, and I can tell he was wanting to get it out. So now it's
been
out
a
in the
long
open.
time coming. Yeah. Okay, it is a big weekend.
No F1 or MotoGP this coming weekend, so we'll have, there is MotoGP, of course, at Aston.
There is MotoGP,
no Grand Prix, so we'll have to see what Hots and Knots bring us next week.
Easy weekend. Probably something else with Dorna. I don't know. Probably something that I get done for. Breathing probably next. Okay, taking a look at our upcoming schedule. This is a big weekend for us here at the Grid Network as well, because we are in Portland for the first ever FIA event that we have covered as a series. So taking a look, Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern as well, Women in Motorsports. Saturday Grid Live pre-race, noon Eastern. Special coverage from Portland International Raceway. Joe Samiego is on site to cover the Formula E race weekend. Myself and Ed Hunter will be there as well. Not sure if Kobe's going to be in the show hosting that, or I'm hosting that. Can't work it out just yet. But either way, join us. We're going to be a lot of fun. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up recapping MotoGP and Formula E and some more content from trackside as well. Kobe is out all weekend long, so I'll be hosting the Grid Live pre-race show on Saturday evening then, I think in between the qualifying sessions. And Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Grid Live Encore, a full recap of ARCA at the Elko Speedway, NASCAR at Nashville, and IMSA at Watkins Glen and more. And also, we'll be uploading all the commentaries from this weekend with myself, Ed Hunter, and Adam Lemridge making his return to the channel. He'll be in the JB Motorsports commentary box this weekend. Practice 1, 2, qualifying, and the E-Prix will be live on the JB Motorsports channel with Joe as well, providing some coverage from the trackside, and then all of them will be uploaded to the Grid Network, a la what we do with IndyCar, which will still stay the same later on in the year. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel then, because you don't want to miss out for everything we've got coming this weekend as well. Thank you, though, for helping us reach the milestone of 600 subscribers. Now, please do help us reaching our new goal of 700 on the road to 1,000. And don't forget to hit the notification, the bell icon as well, because this weekend you're going to need it. There's a load of action coming and you do not want to miss it. Follow all our social media platforms and, of course, visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in Patreon via the Grid Network as well. Join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin and David investing each month in the Grid Network. And we do encourage you to join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage by adding new members to the team and having our team on site to cover more races. The link for that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can always click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board as well, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they'll thank you on the air. Joe Samiego will need it this weekend. Formula E is busy, busy, busy world to be in. So for Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish and Matt White from Grid EPI, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.